Hi guys, welcome to lesson 2.1 and 2.2, solving 1 and 2-step equations. Our objectives for today are that I can solve 1-step equations in one variable and that I can solve 2-step equations in one variable. Our essential understanding is basically what we're going to do today. You are going to use the properties of equality and inverse operations to write simpler equivalent equations. So an equivalent equation is any equation that has the same solution. Inverse operations, these are operations that undo one another. So some examples of these are going to be addition and subtraction. Those are opposite operations. Multiplication and division are opposite operations. And squaring and square rooting are opposite operations. All right, so these are two sets of opposite operations that we're going to be working with. For the time being, we are only going to be dealing with addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. The squaring and square rooting is going to come up in a later chapter. The last thing is the word isolate. Our goal is to get the variable by itself. And that is our whole purpose when we are solving these equations. So at the bottom of the page here, we have our addition and subtraction properties of equality and multiplication and division properties of equality. And what these basically say is, if you do it to both sides of the equation, it will remain an equivalent expression. So you can see in our example, if we subtract, or the original is subtracting 3 from x, and that's equal to 2. To get rid of that minus 3, we do the opposite. We add 3 to both sides, and we get an equivalent expression, which is x equals 5. We have done the exact same thing on both sides of the equation, so this is an equivalent equation. And the same rules apply for multiplication and division. So let's get into some practice problems. So problem number 1. Solving equations. We are going to just have a mixture of these. So what you want to look for is what is happening to the variable, and then we are going to do the opposite of that in order to undo it. So we are adding 3 to x, so x plus 3 is equal to negative 6. So to undo that, we need to subtract 3 from both sides. And so x is equal to negative 9. All right. And if it helps to keep you focused on what's happening on both sides of the equation, especially as problems get more complex, you might want to draw a vertical line through your equal sign. And that just really shows you that you have two halves of this equation, and whatever you are doing needs to be done on both sides of it. All right. So letter B, we have x over 4 is equal to 5. The operation that's happening there is division, so the opposite of division is multiplication. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 4. And so we get x is equal to 20. All right. Letter C, x minus 7 is equal to negative 2. The operation we're doing there is subtraction, so the opposite of subtracting 7 is for us to add 7. All right, so then x is equal to positive 5. Letter D, 3x is equal to negative 27. What we're doing there is multiplication, so the opposite of that would be division. So we're going to divide both sides by 3. And x is equal to negative 9. All right. Now I want you guys pause the videos and give letters A through D at the bottom there a try, and we will go over the answers in a moment. All right. For letter A, we have 3 is equal to negative 8 plus x. So sometimes you might, or some of you may look at this and say, well, we're clearly adding 8 to this. But that is not the case. We're adding a negative 8. So the opposite of adding a negative 8 would be subtracting negative 8. And whenever we subtract a negative, it's adding. So did that confuse you? Possibly. All right, so when you see a negative sign right there, remember, first of all, that a sign in front of a number is connected to that number. So the opposite of a negative 8 would be a positive 8, and we would need to add 8 to both sides. All right, so 11 is equal to x. Letter B, we have x over negative 3 is equal to 7, so we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by negative 3, and we are going to get that x is going to be equal to negative 21. All right, letter C, x plus 10 is equal to 55. The opposite of adding 10 is going to be to subtract 10. So x is going to be equal to 45. Letter D, negative 3x equals negative 12. We're going to divide both sides by negative 3 because that's the opposite of multiplying. And so x is equal to 4. All right. Now, problem number 5 is a special case where we have a fraction that's being multiplied. And the way that we can undo a fraction is to multiply by its reciprocal. So if you don't remember, when we take the reciprocal, we flip the fraction upside down. So for letter A, we've got 12 is equal to 3/4 x. To multiply by the reciprocal, we are going to multiply by 4 over 3, 4/3, on both sides of the equation. All right, when we multiply by 4/3, we get that 16 is equal to x. All right, letter B, we have 2/3 x is equal to 12. So again, we're going to multiply by that reciprocal. So it'll be multiplied by 3/2. Our fraction cancels out, and we are going to be left with x is equal to 18. All right, you guys give letters A and B a try, and then we will go over the answers. So letter A, 5/2 x is equal to 15. We need to multiply both sides of the equation by 2/5 because that's the reciprocal. And so x is going to be equal to 6. All right. Letter B, we've got 33 is equal to 3/5 x. So we're going to multiply both sides by 5/3. And we get that x is equal to 55. All right. So we're going to move on now to problem number 6. And we've got 2 little word problems here. An online DVD rental company offers gift certificates that you can use to purchase rental plans. You have a gift certificate for $30. The plan you select costs $5 per month. We want to know how many months can you purchase with that gift certificate. All right, well, I'm going to define my variable. I'm going to say m is equal to the number of months. And let's just start off with, we know it's $5 per month, so we're going to write that as 5 times m. And we want to know how many months we would have when we spend $30, so that equals $30. Now, solve that. Simple one-step equation. Divide both sides of the equation by 5. And the number of months is equal to 6. Wrong units. It's 6 months, not dollars.
Oh, God.
That's all right. So remember, make sure you think about what units you have here. And the question asks us how many months do we have. So we just write that in 6 months. All right. Letter B, we've got Rob is driving at 40 miles per hour. Stacy is driving 3.5 times as fast. How fast is Stacy driving? Well, we can say that we know that Stacy is equal to, so we could just say x is Stacy's speed. And that is equal to Rob's speed, which is 40, times 3/2. So what do we need to do on this? We just need to multiply those two numbers together, and we find out that Stacy's speed is equal to 60 miles per hour. And you can just abbreviate these units, mph for miles per hour. All right, so now we're going to move on to 2-2, which is solving a two-step equation. Problem number 1, we have 2x plus 3 is equal to 15. Now, two-step equations, we approach the same way that we start one-steps, but we start with the operation that is furthest away from the variable. So we're going to start with the plus 3 and get that away from the x first. So the opposite of plus 3 is minus 3. Do that to both sides of the equation, and you get 2x is equal to 12. Divide both sides by 2. And you get x is equal to 6. So if you want a trick for remembering which way or what to do first with two-step equations, when we do the order of operations, it's PEMDAS. When we're solving equations, it's SADMEP. So when solving equations, we do SADMEP. PEMDAS backwards. All right, letter B, we've got y over 2 minus 4 is equal to negative 12. So we're going to start off with that negative 4. We're going to add 4 to both sides. So we have y over 2 is equal to negative 8. And now to undo division by 2, we're going to multiply by 2. So multiply both sides of our equation by 2. And y is equal to negative 16. Letter C, 5x plus 12 is equal to negative 13. So we're going to start by subtracting 12 from both sides. And we get 5x is equal to negative 25. Divide both sides by 5. And x is equal to negative 5. All right, letter D, we have negative x minus 4 is equal to 9. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to start with adding 4 to both sides. We end up with negative x. Make sure you don't lose that negative sign, is equal to 13. Well, negative x, well, that's just negative 1 times x. So we can just either multiply or divide by negative 1 if we remember that identity property, our multiplication property of negative 1, and we can take the opposite, and we've got x is equal to negative 13. All right, so why don't you guys give the bottom ones a try, and we will come back and go over the answers. So we have m over 7 minus 3 is equal to 6. So we're going to start off by adding 3 to both sides. So 9 is equal to m over 7. Multiply both sides of the equation by 7. And we find that 63 is equal to m. All right. Letter B, 11 is equal to 3x minus 13. So we're going to start by adding 13 to both sides of the equation. And we have 24 is equal to 3x. Divide both sides of the equation by 3. And 8 is equal to x. Letter C, we have 2/3 x plus 7 is equal to 17. We start by subtracting 7 from both sides. That gives us 2/3 x is equal to 10. And we're just going to multiply by the reciprocal again. So we're going to multiply by 3/2 on both sides of the equation. And x is going to be equal to 15. All right. So we're going to move on. You guys know I love word problems. So we've got a problem here using an equation as a model. You are making a bulletin board to advertise for community service opportunities in town. You plan to use 1/4 of a sheet of paper for each ad. You need 4 full sheets for the title banner, and you have 18 sheets of paper to use. And we want to know how many ads can you make. Now, you'll notice that Mr. Wolf's been underlining things in these word problems. He's underlining the important pieces of information that we are being given in order to figure out what this problem is. So we know that we have 18 sheets of paper total. So we're going to start with that. And we're going to say 18 equals. And now we were told in that second sentence that you're going to use 1/4 of a sheet of paper per ad. So we're going to have 1/4 times X, which is the number of ads. And we need 4 full sheets for the title banner. We defined our variable there, X is ads. We need 4 sheets for the title banner, so plus 4. And there we go. We have a 2-step equation that we can solve. So we're going to subtract 4 from both sides of the equation. And we get 14 is equal to 1/4 X. And to solve that, we multiply both sides of the equation by 4. And so 14 times 4 is going to be 56. That equals X. And since it's a word problem, we need our unit, so we're going to say 56 ads. All right, letter B. We've got you. You are told you have $16 and a coupon for a $5 discount at a local supermarket. A bottle of olive oil costs $7, and you want to know how many bottles can you buy? Because everybody needs multiple bottles of olive oil at once. All right, so we are going to define a variable. We're going to say B is our number of bottles. All right, and we know that we have $16 to spend, so that's what we're going to put on one side of the equal sign. And we're going to say that that's going to be equal to our cost per bottle, which is 7 times the number of bottles, so 7B. And we have a discount of 5, so we're subtracting 5. 2-step equation, add 5 to both sides of the equation. And we get 21 is equal to 7B. Divide both sides of the equation by 7. And B is equal to 3. 3 bottles. Because who doesn't need 3 bottles of olive oil at once? I mean, I guess you could buy in bulk when you got a coupon. All right. Problem number 3, solving with 2 terms in the numerator. Now, this is the one time that using SADMEP is not going to be what we want to do. The first thing we want to do is take care of that fraction and get rid of it, because the entirety of y minus 1 is being divided by 4. So we're going to multiply both sides of the equation by 4. And so we get y minus 1 is equal to -8. And now we just need to add 1 to both sides of the equation. And y is equal to -7. All right, and as always, whenever we're solving these equations, we can always plug our answer back in and check it. So -7 minus 1 would be -8. -8 divided by 4 would be -2, and that is what we started with. All right, letter B. We're going to start by multiplying both sides of the equation by 7. And so now we have -14 is equal to x minus 7. Add 7 to both sides. And we have -7 is equal to x.
Please come to the office for Anna Smith when you have a moment. Please come to the office. Aaliyah Beverly, please come to the
All
office.
right.
Aaliyah
Give
Beverly,
letters A and
please come to the
A
school
and
office.
C, because I didn't change it. Give A and C a try. There's no B, and we'll come back to it. All right. So for letter A, we're going to start by multiplying both sides of the equation by 6. And we get x plus 5 is equal to 90. And now we just subtract 5 from both sides. X is equal to 85. All right, letter C. Y plus 4 over 3 is equal to 8. We start by multiplying both sides of the equation by 3. So y plus 4 is equal to 24. Subtract 4 from both sides of the equation. And y is equal to 20. All right, that's the end of our notes for today. As always, make sure you guys fill out your reflection on how you think you're doing on this lesson. Fill in the summary of what we had going on today. And also make sure you write down any questions or confusions that you may have so that we can address those in class tomorrow. All right, have a great night, guys.